My husband feels more like a child than a partner. For years, I carried our household alone, and now I don't know how much more I can take before I break. I know you've all heard similar stories, but living through it firsthand is exhausting. For the past 2 years, I've had the same conversation with my husband over and over again about responsibilities, about teamwork, about how I feel like I'm carrying the entire weight of our household alone. Every time, he nods, agrees to do better, and then, nothing changes. If I don't remind him to do something, it simply doesn't get done. I've tried to be patient. I've tried different approaches, gentle reminders, direct requests, even just stepping back entirely to see if he would take initiative on his own. The result is always the same. I end up frustrated, disappointed, and drowning in the endless tasks of maintaining our home and family. 6 months ago, things took a turn. He told me, flat out, that he had started hating me because of my constant reminders. It stung. I never wanted to be a nagging wife, but what else was I supposed to do? We talked about it at length, and we came to an agreement. I would stop reminding him as long as he actually followed through on his promises. I held up my end of the bargain. Within a few days, he had already failed on his. We had a clear plan. Since I wake up early to work out and prepare breakfast, he would get up with our child and take her to daycare before heading to work. In the evenings, I'd pick her up, make dinner, and handle bedtime while he cleaned the kitchen. It seemed fair. It was balanced. In theory, it should have worked. In reality, every single night, I put our child to bed and walked out to find the kitchen still a disaster. Dirty dishes piled in the sink, food left out on the counter, crumbs on the floor. At first, I would get upset. I'd remind him again that this was something we agreed on. He would brush me off with a half-hearted, "I'll do it in the morning." And sometimes, maybe 1 out of 4 times, he actually did. But usually, the mess just sat there, waiting for me to break down and take care of it. After our agreement, I tried something new. I ignored the mess. I told myself that it wasn't my responsibility anymore. If he didn't clean it, it would stay dirty. I would go straight to bed, forcing myself not to look at the dishes, reminding myself that he needed to step up. 2 months passed. The kitchen was never clean. There was always something rotting on the stove or by the sink. Plates with dried up food, unsealed leftovers growing mold, a constant layer of grime on every surface. Crumbs everywhere, and starting to appear. I held out as long as I could, but eventually, I caved. I started cleaning whenever I could fit it in, usually while cooking, just to prevent the mess from getting too disgusting. I had to learn how to juggle everything: cooking, cleaning, watching our child, all on my own. Sometimes I'd go days without touching the sink, and by the time I finally gave in, there would be an entire week's worth of dishes piled up. We don't have a dishwasher. Scrubbing every single dish, every pot and pan, every greasy utensil, it took forever. Meanwhile, after dinner, my husband would go straight to bed or sit on his phone, scrolling through social media or watching YouTube. Even though I woke up 2 hours earlier than him every day, he was the one who acted exhausted all the time. The worst part? Whenever he did finally wash the dishes, which happened maybe twice a month at best, he had the audacity to complain about how gross they had gotten. As if it wasn't his responsibility to clean up after dinner in the first place. As if I was the one failing here. At some point, something inside me just switched off. I stopped expecting anything from him. I stopped relying on him. I stopped viewing him as a partner. And that's when I realized I don't respect him anymore. He complains about everything: his job, his lack of sleep, our kids' tantrums, me, but he puts in zero effort to make things better. He tells me I don't treat him like a man, but how am I supposed to see him as one when he acts like a teenager who needs to be babysat? Tonight was supposed to be different. Tonight, I let myself hope. For the first time in a long time, he suggested a date night. He told me he would rent a movie and that after bedtime, we'd have a cozy night together. It was such a rare moment, him actually planning something for us, that I felt a flicker of excitement. I made a nicer dinner than usual. I got our child ready for bed, even though it took longer than expected. In my mind, I thought, at least he'll clean up so we can have our movie night. I was wrong. When I finally came out of the bedroom, I saw that he hadn't even bothered to put the lids on the pots on the stove. He hadn't touched the dishes. He just turned off the lights in the kitchen and walked away. It felt like something in my chest broke. I cleaned the kitchen again. He sat at the counter, watching videos on his phone, not saying a word. When I finished, we went to the bedroom, and he just laid down and went to sleep. That was our movie night. I don't know how much more of this I can take. He wants me to see him as a man, but men are reliable. Men take responsibility. Men don't let their partners drown while they sit back and do the bare minimum. I'm exhausted. I'm hurt. I don't know what to do anymore. Does anyone have any advice? Because I'm at my breaking point. Update 1. My husband suddenly changed overnight, and I don't know how to feel about it. First of all, I never expected my original post to blow up like it did. I've read as many replies as I could, and I want to thank everyone who took the time to offer advice and support. It really meant a lot to me. Many of you have asked for an update, so here's what's been happening since my post. I didn't leave him. Yet. After posting, I had this surge of confidence. I had mentally checked out of the relationship, and I was truly planning on leaving. I had started thinking about logistics, where I would go, how I would manage things on my own, what it would mean for our child. I felt ready. And then, all of a sudden, it was like my husband became a different person overnight. I'm not exaggerating. It was drastic. One morning, I woke up to find that he had already made breakfast while I was finishing my workout. That had never happened before. He greeted me with a smile, helped pack lunch for our child, kissed me multiple times before I left for work, and even told me he loved me in this soft, affectionate way that felt completely foreign. I thought, okay, this is weird. Maybe he's in a good mood today. Maybe it won't last past the evening. But when I got home, he was still in the same mood. Cheerful. Affectionate. He even did the dishes without being asked. This was a man who, for years, woke up grumpy, came home grumpy, ignored me, and let me drown in household responsibilities without a second thought. And suddenly, he was smiling at me, holding my hand, cleaning the kitchen. It felt surreal. At first, I was on edge, waiting for the other shoe to drop. But the next day, and the next, and the next, he kept it up. He started working overtime, and since I had switched to part-time hours, our entire routine changed. The chore divide became a non-issue because I was home more, and he actually cleaned the kitchen while I put our child to bed, the one thing that had been the biggest point of tension between us. It's been 3 weeks, and I feel like I'm living in some kind of dream. But instead of feeling happy, I feel uneasy. I haven't told him that I was planning to leave. I don't know if I will. Something inside me keeps whispering that this is too much of a change, too fast. It doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel real. It feels performed, like he's trying too hard. Like there's something I don't know. Then there are these moments, small, fleeting, but they unsettle me. Sometimes, I catch him looking at me with this expression. A look that reminds me of how he used to be. Cold, distant, almost calculating. But then, the moment passes, and he's back to being the new him. A few nights ago, he even planned a date night. We had dinner, watched a movie, and he was affectionate the whole time. Again, this is a man who never initiated date nights before. It was sweet, yes, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Today, he got upset with me because I slept in. He didn't yell. He didn't act aggressively. But for some reason, the way he looked at me, the way his voice tightened just slightly, sent my anxiety through the roof. I shouldn't feel this way about my own husband. I shouldn't feel like I'm constantly on alert, waiting for him to snap back to how he used to be. I should be happy, right? Everything I wanted, help, kindness, affection, it's all here now. So why do I feel like I'm walking on eggshells? I don't know what to do. Thank you to everyone who has supported me. I'm sorry if this update isn't what you were hoping for. But this is where I'm at right now, stuck between feeling hopeful and terrified. Update 2. I finally see things clearly, and I know what I have to do. It's been about a month since my last update, and I've spent every single day in a state of emotional whiplash. I kept telling myself that maybe I was overthinking things, maybe I was being paranoid, maybe I should just enjoy the fact that my husband was finally trying. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. At first, I ignored the feeling. I kept waiting for the old version of him to come back, the man who let me do everything while he sat back and complained. But he didn't. On the surface, he stayed the same perfect husband he had suddenly become overnight. He still helped with chores, still kissed me before leaving for work, still played the role of a loving partner. And yet, I never truly felt at ease. That feeling of walking on eggshells never left. Every time I woke up, I wondered if today would be the day he snapped back. Every time he glanced at me with that cold, unreadable look, my stomach twisted into knots. I started to notice little things, like how he always seemed extra nice right after I looked sad or distant, as if he was making sure I stayed hooked. Like how, when he thought I wasn't looking, his face would go blank, empty, calculating. And then, something happened that shattered any illusion I was holding on to. A few nights ago, I woke up in the middle of the night and saw him sitting at the edge of the bed. He wasn't on his phone. He wasn't doing anything. He was just sitting there, staring at me in the dark. I pretended to still be asleep, my heart pounding in my chest. Eventually, he laid back down, but I barely slept after that. That was the moment I knew. This isn't just guilt finally making him change. This isn't just him realizing he needs to be better. This is manipulation. Maybe it's because he sensed I was going to leave. Maybe he saw my post and realized how close I was to walking away. Maybe he thought that if he became my dream husband, just long enough, I'd forget. That I'd get comfortable again. But I see it now. I see how he controlled me before with neglect, making me so exhausted that I didn't have the energy to leave. And now, he's trying to control me with affection, giving me just enough love and attention to make me second-guess myself. And the worst part? It almost worked. I almost convinced myself that this was real, that he had truly changed, that I should stay. But I can't. Because the truth is, I don't trust him. And if I don't trust the person I'm sharing my life with, then what's the point? So, I've made my decision. I'm leaving. I haven't told him yet. I don't plan to until I have everything in order. I've started quietly making preparations, saving money, looking into living arrangements, reaching out to people I trust. I refuse to give him any opportunity to manipulate me into staying. I don't know how he'll react. And honestly, that terrifies me. But I do know one thing. I refuse to spend the rest of my life being afraid of my own husband. Thank you to everyone who has followed my story and offered support. You all helped me see what I was too scared to admit to myself. Wish me luck. I'm finally taking my life back.